Hey guys, what is up? My name is Megan and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. I hope you guys are doing well and staying safe, and welcome to today's video, which is a wrap up including my reading stats for my different reading challenges, as well as a book haul of all the books I purchased in February at the end. As always, there will be timestamps down below. I think that's all I need to say for this introduction, so let's hop on into February's wrap up. Now, in February, the books I have read and or DNF'd are the following. I have this beautiful stack of books to talk about, so I'm just gonna hop on in and quickly review the different books, and if there are any videos that I am referencing within the reviews, I will leave them down below as well. The first book I have to talk about is Yesterday Crumb and the Storm in a Teacup by Andy Sagar. This I read for my first episode of Bookshelf Blitz, and if you watched that episode, you would know that this was actually a DNF. I read, I think, almost 50% of this, but I don't think I did reach the 50% mark. This is the first in a middle grade fantasy series, and I thought I was going to really enjoy this when I purchased this, I think like 2 years ago. However, after consuming so many middle grade books, I have realized that my specific taste don't necessarily align with this book. I don't think there's anything bad about this book per se, it's just not my cup of tea, no pun intended. Yesterday Crumb follows a main character named Yesterday who has fox ears, and at the beginning of this book she is found by this kind of witch when she is traveling with a circus, and she's brought to this magical tea shop, and I kind of got there and a little bit further. I think this book is very whimsical, it's very imaginative, and I think it is kind of very childlike, which for a middle grade reader obviously fits the bill, and this book does not pretend to be anything other than very whimsical, even in its synopses. However, I think it was just a little bit too over the top for me, because it's not, I like whimsy in a book, but I just think this was a little bit too much whimsy for me, and it's not necessarily characters or a plot that made sense to me in any way, shape, or form. Now, I know this is what this book is, it's meant to be this way, so it's no fault to the book, it's just I don't think I am the target audience for it. If you want to hear more of my thoughts, again, Bookshelf Blitz episode number 1. Then I also read The Doomtown Dummies by Liam R. Finley. This was actually sent to me by the author, and this book is like indie published. He published it himself, and it's not very talked about anywhere. I think there's like 4 or 5 reviews on Storygraph, and I don't remember what I read this for, but I know I read it for something in the month of February. This, I had not thought of a rating when I finished the book. I would probably give a 2.75 because, again, this book does a lot of things right. It's just not necessarily for me. I will say I really enjoy the author's writing. I think that the writing style would indicate, like, I would pick something up again from this author, no doubt. It's just the storyline itself wasn't necessarily for me. We follow a main character named Colette, who has this kind of umbrella who talks to her, and Colette has something with the sense of smell, and they kind of go on this adventure in a doom town, and there are dummies there. It is very and I keep forgetting, someone on Storygraph compared this to different authors. I'll try to incorporate the screenshot if I can think of it, but there are other authors who do these kinds of stories and it works very well, and I think this author also does it very well. It's just, again, the plotline and the characters I did not feel connected to, but the writing style and the atmosphere are excellently executed. Like, it's nothing wrong with this book, and I would recommend this book to certain types of people who enjoy these kinds of stories, but I am very much a character driven person, and so if I don't connect to the characters, my enjoyment of the story is always a little more lackluster. But again, phenomenal writing style, and I would pick up more from this author if he eventually comes out with other books. Thank you again for sending me this, and I'm sorry it took so long to get to it. Then I also picked up Eva Evergreen and the Semi-Magical Witch. This was my members pick for Bookshelf Blitz, so I will not say anything other about this book. Just know that if you want my thoughts on this one, you need to be a member and go watch that video. Then we get to my highlights of the month. The first being Kidnap on the California Comet by MJ Leonard and Sam Sedgman. This is book 2 in the Adventures on Train series, and I read this for Bookshelf Blitz episode 2. Yes, episode 2. So this is, as I said, the second book in Adventures on Trains. Adventures on Trains being a middle grade mystery series where main character Hal goes on different train adventures with his uncle, and every time they go on a train, something different happens. The first book in the series is The Highland Falcon Thief, which I read back in January, and that was a jewel theft, and in this one we have the kidnap of a young girl named Marianne. This book so far is my favorite in the series that I've read. Because of the side characters, I think what this one does extremely well is the use of the side characters to further the plot and just have them be very believable children. I think I was so invested in the story and how our characters were solving the mystery because of the side characters. I also really enjoyed that Hal and his uncle are a lot closer in this book because it is their second trip together, and I will say that the mystery itself, the kidnapping, was really interesting. And again, the way the side characters, who are like magicians in training, were involved in the overall like solving of the crime was so impeccably well done. I also really liked that this is set in America. I liked the setting. I liked the journey they went on. I could vividly picture this while listening to the audiobook, and the audiobooks again are phenomenal. I highly recommend this series if you are unfamiliar with it because it is an excellent middle grade series, and I did end up giving this one a 4.5 stars. We are done moving on to all of my 5-star reads. The first one being Playbook by Rebecca Janchak. This is a romance novel. Rebecca is very quickly becoming my favorite romance author of all time. I love her stories so much. The Playbook is part of the Holland Brothers series, though I have not yet read The Burnout, but I did end up reading Playbook because it was picked by my TBR jar within the Bookshelf Blitz, I think episode 1. I'm sorry I'm referring to them so much, but a lot of what I read goes into these videos. This is a dual perspective romance that follows a young girl, she's not young, a girl who is receiving all of the fan mail for the football player because she has his old P.O. box, and they have a run-in at a bar, and she kind of confronts him about him, and she's like, I don't know why you're receiving like panties and all these things, but like get it together and change your P.O. box, like do something. I don't want to have to open my P.O. box to a bunch of fan mail all the time. And these two like encounter again, and they end up fake dating and falling in love. There's a lot of the tropes that I really enjoy in here. I love the way the two communicate. There's no real third act breakup in here, which I also really enjoyed. I just love how Rebecca does a lighthearted story with different themes and more like important topics weaved into it. I loved both our characters. I was giggling, kicking my feet. There's just something about the way she writes these different characters that really gets to me, and I'm like, I wish I was literally living in this book with these people, and I cannot wait to move on to the remainder of the series. I'm reading book 3 this month, and honestly can't wait to get to it because there's just such an incredible feeling while reading these that like you don't get reading other books. Like, this author is outstanding, and I can rave about this forever, but again, go see Bookshelf Blitz if you want to hear my full thoughts. Then we have Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Sea of Monsters, which is the second book in my year of Rick Riordan. If you didn't know, I am reading one Rick Riordan book I was gonna say a month until the end of the year, starting with the Percy Jackson series, moving into Heroes of Olympus, and coming back to Percy Jackson to close out the year. This I have a full spoiler-filled reading vlog for, but obviously this one was a reread. I have read books 1 through 3 of Percy Jackson multiple times, so we're not yet into the nitty-gritty of me reading these new books, but I absolutely love it. There's just something nostalgic about Percy Jackson and just something phenomenal about the way Rick Riordan weaves fantasy and friendship and women being strong characters, and just the tension and the fun and the like familiar feeling of reading Percy Jackson is something you cannot beat. And obviously I do think every book in the series will be 5 stars, though there still will be a ranking. But I really enjoyed this. This is a shorter installment, and I really liked the premise and the fast-paced vibes of this. This one is much quicker to get going than book one because we have already been like explained the world and the people, like who is who and what are we doing and what is happening. So all of that was already set up in book one, and so in book two we're just kind of going for it. And I vaguely remembered the end of book two because I just for some reason have a hard time remembering the plot points of these. They all kind of interweave in my head, but the ending of book two was like a very big ending, and I can't wait to get into book three this month. So again, have a full reading vlog for this one if you didn't see it yet. And the last book I have to talk about is probably a highlight of my life. No exaggerations. I mean, all of those, like especially, I'm sorry, as I was saying before my little robot friend rudely interrupted me, these two definitely highlights of the month and potential to be on my favorites of 2025 list. But Skandar, I also read for Bookshelf Blitz. Surprise, surprise. I mean, if you're taking a shot every time I'm saying Bookshelf Blitz, I'm sorry. But this is book 3 in the Skandar series, which if you are new to my channel, I have Skandar content galore on here, and I am planning to do a full spoiler-filled review of Skandar as well, because I have a lot of thoughts. Some of those were expressed in a spoiler-free manner during Bookshelf Blitz, but I do have a lot of spoiler-filled thoughts because this book is outstanding. I love this. This is a 6-star read for sure. There's just something about Skandar that just keeps getting better, and I cannot wait to read book 4 this month because holy camole, it just... I cried so many times. I cried over 10 times reading this book. I love this to pieces. The highlights of this book are definitely the discussions on what it is to be siblings, and found family versus blood family is a very interesting topic that is talked about in here. There's also a lot with a subplot of injustice and discrimination and all of these things surrounding the siblings, which are Skandar and Kenna. I also think that the chaos trials themselves were really well executed. So in the 3rd book of Skandar, we have the chaos trials, which are set around the 4 elements, and so each kind of season has its elemental affiliation, and we see the group of fledglings go through a trial for every different season, and every trial is based off the element itself. So the trials are very different whether you're in the earth trial or the fire trial, and it brings a lot of different perspectives of our main characters, because, you know, people will do a lot when they're at the edge of losing their seat, because if you don't go through the 4 trials successfully, you are declared a nomad, and you're basically kicked out of this world. And if all of that means nothing to you when you don't know what Skandar is about, it follows a young boy named Skandar who, in his world, there's this thing where some people live on the mainland and other people live on the island. And on the island, there's this place called the Eyrie, where people go and bond with unicorns and train for 5 years. It's kind of like a school where you learn to hone in on your powers that are affiliated with your unicorn, and you can be one of like the 4 different elemental powers, though there is a 5th one introduced. And so this is very much a chosen one story that features friendship, and obviously it's full of fantastic wonders. It's full of unicorns who all have those wonderful personalities. Each of them are very unique, and a lot of different subplots and mysteries and trials and tribulations. It's very, very much the most wonderful middle grade series. I love Skandar to pieces. Book 5 comes out this year, so we're almost at a close, but that is what Skandar is, and obviously this is like the best in the series yet. My ranking is definitely 3, 2, and 1 for now. I can't wait to see how that changes with book 4. But yeah, those were all my reads this month. It's been an okay month. I do think January was a little bit better when it comes to numbers, though I am kicking off March very strong, and I say I'm sorry that this whole wrap-up is late. Let's go into stats about, you know, what goals did I hit, what did I not hit, all of those things. So starting off with all of my different reading challenges, when it comes to buzzword, I did not fulfill any of my chosen books, which means I'm a little bit behind, though I think I'm reading 2 or 3 books of this chart this month, so I should be back on track and a little bit ahead by the time March finishes. But for February, I did not knock anything out, nor did I knock out anything for my 15 priority reads, and that is a little bit more scary because there's 15 of them on there, so I technically need to read more than one a month. So again, I need to make a conscious effort to pick some of those up very quickly because I don't want to fall behind to a point where like mid-year I'm like, I give up on this. So we're not doing great when it comes to those goals. When it comes to my bingo board from hell, I was able to knock one thing off the list, and that is to read from 5 new authors and 5 old, like, favorite authors. I have read more than that, so that is one square off the bingo board that can be checked off. Nothing else for the present time can be checked off. However, I am doing very good with my middle grade goal. I think I'm more than halfway, and I haven't purchased any of the Afterlight books so far. So again, I am good to go when it comes to that because I just haven't purchased any. I think the areas where I really need to pick up the slack are with my adult fantasy and Brandon Sanderson. I really need to get my butt into gear if I want to be able to knock that off. I am making a conscious effort towards reading more series with the Adventures on Trains. I am 3 books down right now. So I'm halfway through that series. With Skandar, I should be caught up by the end of the year. And with Percy Jackson, like, there's a lot going on when it comes to that square that I think will help me get to that goal eventually, but I am not there yet. So we're making progress. We got one checked off, but I need to keep reminding myself to pick up more adult fantasy and just more Sanderson, but it takes a long time, and with everything I have going on, I always put these books on the back burner. I also think that I haven't been fostering the Brandon Sanderson community as I wanted it to. I think I used to have more people to talk about Brandon Sanderson with, and the fact that I don't necessarily have that anymore has also shifted my perspective of like, I need to be doing this on my own, and that is not a bad thing. I just think it's impacting the speed at which I read, because it's always a motivation to talk about books with people. Like, I wish I could do that for every single book I read, and I think I associated Brandon Sanderson with like talking to people about it, but I need to shift my mindset, and once that is done, I think it will bring out better results. And I just need to start tackling those adult fantasy books that I purchased that are sitting on my shelf. I think I'm going to enjoy them, but again, they take more of my time and energy, which is sometimes a little bit lacking, especially recently with all of my health concerns coming back. I have started experiencing dizzy spells again, which is why I'm having a little bit of a harder time talking and focusing in videos, and why they're a little bit more sparse. But in general, I think I'm making progress towards those goals. When it comes to reading goals and channel goals, as for my numeric goal, I'm on book 16 of 90 when it comes to the end of February, so we're on track with that. I think we're doing really well. I've read a lot more in the beginning of this year than I have last year, so I do see like all the positives of reading with my mental health and just my overall well-being. Though I will say my screen time I thought would be lower with the more I read, but I still need to make a conscious effort with my screen time because it's not looking so good. I am nowhere near the 3 hours or less a day, which, don't ask me what I'm doing on my phone because I don't talk to people. I don't text with people. I don't FaceTime people. I don't call people. I am not very present on social media. I like to post on like my Bookstagram and my Instagram like stories, but I don't know. I watch a lot of YouTube and stuff, but I need to get that under control. When it comes to channel goals, my subscription right now is I'm at 2,440 out of 2,700, so we're making great progress within that sphere, though I do think it's eventually going to slow down, so I'm just hoping we'll get to the 2,700 before the end of the year. And financially, I think I'm over my goal of making $200 for the year with YouTube. This is my full first year of being monetized, and I can't wait to see what it looks like. But for now, I have surpassed. I'll put it on the screen, obviously, where I'm at. But I do think I've hit that goal of like $200 on YouTube. by this time. YouTube does, like, you need a minimal payment threshold of $100 to be able to cash out. So I haven't quite cashed out yet twice, because I think I cashed out once in January with $154, and I've accumulated almost another $100, but I will not be cashing out until April. So if you ever wondered how that works, that's what it looks like. So I think that's all I have to say goals wise. I will be making a quarterly goals check-in at the end of March, and that will be its own separate video for the upcoming month. But yeah, moving on to books I have hauled. So this month, all of the books I purchased were with some leftover Facebook money that I had from January, and I still have a little bit of leftovers to bring into March, but after that I'll need to go back to like selling stuff if I want more stuff to come in. First thing I did buy is not something I have with me right now. It is a subscription for the quarterly Owl Crate Romantasy. The first one is coming out in April, but I had to pay for my first like box in February. So I'm now subscribed to the Owl Crate Quarterly Romance and Quarterly Romantasy, as well as Afterlight. I did not renew Afterlight for February, nor did I renew it for March, so we're good in that regard. I'm not really liking the picks for Afterlight this year so far. I think I'm gonna get maybe May and June, but they're not really up my alley right now. It's not super appealing, which is unfortunate, but at least I'm saving money. Physical books I purchased. The first one is the paperback version of Skandar and the Chaos Trials by A.F. Stedman. This is the Waterstones exclusive with the sprayed edges. Obviously, I have just read Skandar, so we're good with that one. It doesn't add to my list of things to read. I collect these. I have books 1 and 2 right over there, so I needed book 3 for my collection. Then I have a couple of middle grade books. The first one being The Ice Apprentices by Jacob North, which is a February 2025 release. This is my book club pick for the month of March, so I obviously needed a copy to read, and I decided to get the Waterstones paperback with the sprayed edges. I also have The Forbidden Atlas by Sam Sedgman, which is the sequel to The Clockwork Conspiracy, which I read back in January, and I wanted to have a peruse at the sequel and see if it's a series I'm interested in, like, spending more time with. I liked the first book. I am hoping I love this one. This one is set in Paris, but I believe it follows all the same main characters and side characters. We also have a new MJ Leonard book, which is The Hunt for the Golden Scarab, I believe. This is the first in the Time Key series. It is a middle grade mystery series. This is the first book, and I believe it's going to be set in Egypt somehow. Very interested in this one, and again, these are the two authors of the Adventures on Train series, and I want to compare and see how their books individually feel, so I can know if I just continue reading them individually or wait until they possibly co-author something else together, but both of these are mysteries. And then I have 2 romance books, one being Deep End by Ali Hazelwood, which I have heard so many things about. Apparently there's like BDSM in here, and it's a little bit of a different novel by her. I am very hyped for this one because I love Ali Hazelwood, but I don't know that the steam is going to be for me. This is about swimmers, a swimmer and a diver, and one of them is asexual, and it's a steamy college romance. I think it's gonna be different from other Ali Hazelwood books. You'll be able to see in my 40% vlog what I think of this one, as well as all the other books. And the last book I have for my haul is Come Back by Rebecca Janchak. This is the 3rd book in the Holland Brothers series, so the 3rd book, it comes after Playbook. And this one has a deaf main character, which we saw obviously in Playbook, and I'm excited for the story because it's between the sister of the boy in book 2 and Asher, who is deaf, and she is a dancer, he's a football player. I think it's going to be outstanding, and I'm going to love this series so much. This is one I'm highly anticipating and think will be a 5 stars. So again, you'll be able to see all of my thoughts on this in my 40% vlog, which will be coming to you this month. So I think I was reasonable. I bought 5 books. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books. One of them which I have already read, so not too shabby, and I'm very excited to get to all of them. So this is all I have to say to wrap up February. March is already looking like a good month because obviously we are a few days into March when it comes to both my goals and just my reads in general, and I'm really excited to share all of those video projects with you and just talk about books. So yeah, I'll see you very soon with another video. Thank you so much for watching. Happy reading, guys. Bye!